Make your kid apologize or get out of this family? My brother growled after his son shoved my son's $7,200 custom-built gaming PC into the fireplace. Dad added, "Broke kids don't need expensive things." I simply replied, "Understood." I froze the $9,300 cruise booking I had covered for them, cut the card, and the next morning I woke up to 158 missed calls and Mom begging outside my gate. The tower hit the fireplace grate at an angle. The tempered glass side panel shattered first. A sharp pop followed by the scatter of fragments across the hearth. And then the case tipped forward into the open flame, and the rug fans that Alden had spent 40 minutes aligning on Saturday number 7 caught fire in a sequence that started blue and ended orange and the motherboard. The Asus ROG Strix B760F that we installed on Saturday number 2, with 4 standoffs and a magnetic screwdriver and a YouTube tutorial paused 11 times, cracked down the center as the heat expanded the copper traces faster than the fiberglass substrate could hold them. The tower was on a side table next to the fireplace. Alden had brought it to show the family. He had carried it from my truck in both arms. 42 pounds of aluminum and glass and components we had selected over 3 weeks and assembled over 11 Saturdays in my garage, with thermal paste on our fingers and anti-static straps on our wrists, and the specific patience of 2 people building something together that neither could build alone. Dane was sitting on the couch 4 feet from the side table. He is 15, 5'11", 170 pounds. He plays right guard on his freshman football team. He looked at the tower the way he had been looking at it since Alden set it down, with the narrowed focus of a boy who has been told by his father that this object represents everything wrong with his cousin and everything missing from his own life. He stood up from the couch. He crossed the 4 feet between the cushion and the side table in 2 steps. He put both hands on the aluminum case, palms flat, fingers spread wide the way a lineman puts his hands on a blocking sled. And he shoved. The tower did not fly. It slid off the table, hit the stone hearth, tipped forward, and fell into the fireplace opening where Sefton had lit a fire 2 hours earlier, because it was November and Sefton lights fires in November regardless of whether the house needs heat. The logs caught the case. The flames found the cables. The GPU, an NVIDIA RTX 4070 that Alden and I installed on Saturday number 3. The card he held in both hands while I showed him the PCI slot and said slide it in straight, press until it clicks. If it does not click, it does not count, began to darken at the edges as the thermal compound on the heatsink started to smoke. Alden did not scream. He stepped forward and he reached toward the fireplace, and I caught his arm because the case was already 300 degrees, and his hands were 14 years old, and they had built something beautiful with those hands, and I was not going to let the fire take his hands too. He pulled back. He stood beside me. His right hand went to his left wrist, where the anti-static strap had been on Saturday number 3. The strap was not there, but the habit was. He reached for the thing that protects. My brother Maddox was standing behind the couch. He had watched Dane shove the tower. He had not moved to stop him. He had not said Dane's name. He had not reached for the case. He stood with his arms crossed and his chin up, and the posture of a man watching something happen that he decided should happen before it happened. Make your kid apologize or get out of this family, he said. He was looking at me, not at the fire, not at the $7,200 in components melting in a fireplace. At me. The way a man looks at another man when the looking is the threat. My father Sefton was in the recliner. He had a bourbon in his hand and a football game on the television behind him, and the specific expression of a man who has already chosen sides and is now providing commentary from the winning section. He looked at the fire. He looked at Alden. He said, "Broke kids do not need expensive things." My mother Patrice was in the kitchen doorway. She had seen the shove through the pass-through window. She came into the living room and she looked at the fireplace and she looked at Alden and she looked at me and she said nothing. Her nothing was louder than Sefton's sentence. Her nothing said, "I agree with all of this and I am not going to say it out loud because saying it out loud would require owning it, and I would rather let the men own it while I stand in the doorway and collect the silence. I looked at the fireplace. The RGB fans had stopped spinning. The glass panel was in pieces on the hearth. The case was dark with soot, and the motherboard was cracking, and the GPU heatsink was glowing the dull orange of metal that has absorbed more heat than it was designed to hold. 11 Saturdays. $7,200. A competition entry that was supposed to happen in 3 weeks. A boy who had learned to build with his hands. All of it in a fireplace because a 15-year-old shoved it and a 37-year-old let him, and a 65-year-old called the builder broke. I said, understood. I knelt at the fireplace. The heat pushed against my face. I reached in with the fireplace tongs and I pulled the GPU from the wreckage. The heatsink was scorched. The fan blades had melted. The PCI connector was black. But the heatsink housing was intact. The aluminum had held. I set it on the stone hearth and it hissed once against the cold surface. I picked up the GPU. I handed it to Alden. He held it in both hands the way he held it on Saturday number 3, except now it was warm from the fire instead of cool from the box, and the surface was rough instead of smooth, and the card did not work anymore, but it existed. And existing after a fire is its own kind of function. I put Alden's coat on him. I put the GPU in his coat pocket. I took his hand. We walked out. In the truck, Alden held the scorched GPU on his lap with both hands. He did not speak for 9 minutes. The streetlights passed. The GPU caught each light in the scratches on the heatsink, small reflections that moved across the surface like signals. Then he said, Dad, we can rebuild it. We will. The competition is in 3 weeks. We will figure it out. Dane did not even look sorry. Dane was not sorry. Dane was following instructions. He was quiet again. Then, whose instructions? We will talk about that later. If you are watching Family Secret Tales for the first time, welcome. This is not a story about a gaming PC. This is a story about 11 Saturdays, a $9,300 cruise, a scorched GPU, and the night a marine mechanic stopped servicing the family that sank his son's work. I own Reese Marine Repair. Inboards, outboards, stern drives, diesel systems, hull repair, and marine electrical. I have been fixing boats since I was 19 when Caruso Fenn, who ran the yard at Seabrook Marina for 30 years, put a wrench in my hand and said, an engine tells you what is wrong before it breaks. Your job is to listen before the noise starts. I listened under Caruso for 8 years. I went independent at 27. I have 240 active accounts. I service vessels from 14-foot skiffs to 40-foot sport fishers. My hands smell like diesel and zinc anodes and the marine-grade silicone I use to seal lower unit housings. They are calloused at the base of every finger and permanently stained at the cuticles, and they are the same hands that held a soldering iron on Saturday number 5 when Alden and I wired the custom lead strip inside the case, and he said, Dad, this is the coolest thing we have ever built. He was right. It was. The family calls me the boat fixer. Patrice told her book club, Keegan works at a marina. He is good with his hands. Good with his hands. The way you describe a plumber or a handyman or a man whose contribution to society stops at the wrench. Not the way you describe a business that grosses $318,000 a year and employs 3 full-time techs and has a wait list through February. Not the way you describe a man who rebuilt a twin-turbo Caterpillar C12 on a 38-foot yellowfin last March and saved the owner $22,000 in replacement costs. When I opened the shop at 27, Sefton said, Boat repair? That is seasonal. What are you going to do in winter? I winterize boats in winter. That is what I do in winter. I make $14,000 every November and December from winterization alone. Sefton does not know this because Sefton has never asked about the business the way he has never asked about Alden's school or Alden's esports qualifier, or the 11 Saturdays we spent in the garage building something worth more than the sum of its components. When my wife left in 2019, Patrice called me once. She said, maybe if you did not smell like diesel all the time, she would have stayed. She said it while standing in a kitchen I remodeled for her at no charge the summer before because the cabinets were falling off the walls, and Sefton said his knees were too bad to do the work. My diesel-smelling hands installed 14 cabinet doors and a new backsplash and a pantry pullout. Patrice posted the kitchen on Facebook with the caption, "New kitchen, new energy." She did not mention who installed it. When Alden was 8 and built his first computer from salvage parts I brought home from a client's office cleanout, Maddox looked at it and said, "You were raising a screen addict, Keegan. Dane plays football. Dane is outside. Your kid sits in a dark room. Dane plays football because Maddox signed him up. Dane does not like football. Dane has told Shelby he wants to quit. Shelby told me this at Thanksgiving last year. Dane hates football. He wants to do robotics. Maddox will not let him. Maddox will not let his son build things because building things is what Keegan and Alden do, and Maddox cannot survive the comparison. Maddox has never visited my shop. He has never attended Alden's birthday. He has never given Alden a gift. He brought a $15 Walmart gift card to Alden's 10th birthday party that had $4.11 remaining on it because he had used it himself and did not check the balance. Alden thanked him. My son thanks people for things they do not deserve. I raised him that way. I am starting to wonder if I raised him too well for this family. Maddox earns $71,000 as a regional sales rep for a building materials company. Shelby earns $48,000 as an office manager. Combined, $119,000. They drive matching Tahoes. Dane has a $600 gaming console, a $400 skateboard, and new Jordans every quarter. Their house has a pool I helped install the pump for because Maddox said he could not afford a contractor, and I said yes, because I am a marine mechanic and pool pumps are close enough to bilge pumps that I can install them in my sleep. I installed a $1,800 pump for free. Maddox posted the pool on Instagram with the caption "Summer Ready." He did not mention who installed the pump. Nobody in this family mentions who installs anything. Maddox's $38,000 Wellcraft Center console at Kima Marina has been serviced by me for 4 years. Free, winterization, $800 value. Impeller change, $350. Lower unit service, $600. Zincs, $180. Annual total, $3,200. 4 years, $12,800. Free labor from the brother whose kid does not need expensive things. I pay Maddox's marina slip. $340 a month for 2 years. $8,160. Patrice called me in 2024 and said, "Your brother needs help with the boat. It is his only hobby." His only hobby cost me $340 a month and $3,200 a year, and a phone call from a mother who has never once called to ask about Alden's hobbies or his build log or his qualifier registration or the 11 Saturdays that ended in a fireplace. Subscribe to Family Secret Tales if you know what it feels like to service someone else's boat while they burn your son's work. The $7,200 build was not a toy. It was a tool. Alden registered for the Texas Regional Valorant Qualifier in October. 16-team bracket. Top prize, $5,000 scholarship, and an invitation to the state championship in Austin. The minimum hardware requirement. A system capable of 144 FPS at 1080p on competitive settings. Alden's school Chromebook runs at 30 FPS on a good day. He needed a machine. We built one. 11 Saturdays. Component by component, Asus ROG Strix motherboard. Intel i7-13700K processor. 32GB DDR5 RAM. NVIDIA RTX 4070 GPU. Samsung 2TB NVMe drive. Corsair case. EVGA 850W power supply. Noctua cooler. Custom cables, fans, thermal paste, and the anti-static kit I ordered because static kills circuits the way salt kills engines. Plus the peripherals Alden needed for the qualifier, 165Hz gaming monitor, mechanical keyboard, wireless mouse, headset, and a used Secret Lab chair from a resale site, plus the tools, soldering station, est-mat, anti-static wrist straps. Total all in, $7,200. We built it in my garage workshop. The same bench where I rebuild marine starters and alternators. I cleared the bench on Saturday #1 and Alden laid out every component in the order we would install them. Left to right, the way I lay out marine parts before a rebuild. Motherboard first, CPU second, RAM third, GPU on Saturday 3, storage on 4, SU on 5, cable management on 6, fan alignment on 7, stress testing on 8, 9, 10, final benchmarking and competition registration on 11. Alden logged every Saturday in a notebook. Each entry had the date, the component installed, the time to completion, and a note. Saturday 3, GPU installed. Clicked on the first try. Dad says if it does not click, it does not count. It counted. Saturday 7, fans aligned. All 6 running. Sounds like a boat engine idling. Dad laughed. Saturday 11, benchmark complete. 247 fps at 1080p. Registered for qualifier. We did it. We did it. And Dane shoved it into a fireplace. Patrice's has been an authorized user on my visa for 3 years. She told me the card was for emergencies. The statement tells a different story. Nail salon, $95 every 2 weeks. 2 fund, $470 per year. Home goods and Target, $180 per month average, $6,480 over 3 years. A spa day at the Galleria for $380. Restaurant tabs at Papado and Landry's totaling $2,200. Costco runs that included wine, a Vitamix blender, and a set of patio cushions that cost $340. Total in 3 years, $16,800. On a card she told me was for emergencies. The emergency was that Patrice wanted to live above her budget, and I was the elevation. I send Patrice $300 a month for household help. She set it up when Sefton retired and said, the house costs more than his pension covers. Sefton's pension is $3,400 a month. The house payment is $1,100. Utilities are $380. The math does not require my $300. But the math has never mattered in this family because the math has always been my job and the spending has always been theirs. $300 a month for 3 years. $10,800. In household help, that helps the household maintain a lifestyle that includes cable television with every premium channel. A lawn service Sefton could do himself, but will not because his knees bother him on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but do not bother him on Saturday mornings when he drives to the marina to fish from a boat I service for free. I almost called Patrice from the truck and read her every number. The thing that stopped me was the GPU. It was in Alden's coat pocket. Scorched, heavy, still warm. A piece of something we built together that survived the fire. Because aluminum holds when everything around it melts. I did not need to call Patrice. I needed to cancel Patrice. Subscribe to Family Secret Tales and stay with me. Because what I found on day 2 explains why Dane shoved the PC and why Maddox let him. Caruso called me at 10 p.m. on the night of the fire. I had texted him a photo of the scorched GPU sitting on my kitchen counter. He called back in 4 minutes. Caruso does not text about damage. He calls. The way a mechanic responds to an engine alarm, immediately, directly, with tools in mind. Who did this? Dane, Maddox's kid. Shoved the entire tower into the fireplace at my parents' house. The motherboard cracked. The RAM warped. The case melted. The fans are gone. The GPU heatsink survived. Everything else is ash. The build you and Alden spent 3 months on? The qualifier rig? 11 Saturdays. $7,200. The competition is in 3 weeks. And Maddox stood behind the couch with his arms crossed. Told me to make Alden apologize for provoking Dane. Dad said broke kids do not need expensive things. Mom stood in the doorway and said nothing. Caruso was quiet for 6 seconds. 6 seconds is a long time for a man who has spent 30 years diagnosing engines in under 60. Then, they burned a computer your boy built with his hands. That is not property damage, Keegan. That is an attack on craftsmanship. An engine block has the same dignity as a motherboard. You build it, you respect it. Someone destroys it, you do not apologize to them. You cancel every service they depend on. Cancel everything they float on. I am going to. Good in the qualifier? 3 weeks. Then you rebuild in 2. I will clear bench space at the shop tomorrow. We will source the parts Monday. The kid is not losing his competition because his cousin is a vandal and his uncle is a coward. That was Caruso. Engine before emotion. Solution before anger. Diagnose, source, install, test. Do not stand at the dock and stare at the water. Fix the boat. The twist came on day 2, Sunday morning. I was at the kitchen table with the cruise booking pulled up on my laptop. The scorched G-poo was beside the laptop like an exhibit in a case file nobody wants to open. Shelby, Maddox's wife, texted me at 9 a.m. Shelby has never been involved in Reese family dynamics. She sits at family dinners with the quiet posture of a woman who married into a system she did not design and cannot change but occasionally documents. Her text said, "Keegan, I am sorry about the PC. Dane told me something last night you need to know. He said he told Maddox on Thursday. Alden's dad built that computer with him. 11 weekends in the garage. You never build anything with me." Maddox was angry all day Friday. At breakfast Saturday morning, he told Dane, "That computer is just Keegan showing off. Alden needs to learn his place." I think that is why Dane did it. I thought you should know. I read the text 3 times. Each reading changed the picture. First reading, Dane acted on his father's anger. The shove was not spontaneous. Second reading, Maddox heard his own son accuse him of absence and responded by targeting the evidence of another father's presence. 11 Saturdays. Thermal paste and cable ties and YouTube tutorials paused 11 times, and a boy who wrote in a notebook, "Dad says, if it does not click, it does not count." Maddox could not survive that comparison. So he erased it. Third reading, the eSports qualifier. Alden was registered for a regional Valorant competition with a $5,000 scholarship prize and a path to state. The PC was not a toy. It was a competition instrument, a tool. Maddox did not know about the qualifier because Maddox has never asked Alden a question about anything. He destroyed a $7,200 competition rig 3 weeks before a $5,000 scholarship event, and he called the builder broke. The math does not work in any direction Maddox faces. I almost drove to Maddox's house with Shelby's text on my screen. The thing that stopped me was Alden's build notebook. It was open on the table to Saturday 11. The final entry. Benchmark complete. 247 FPS at 1080p on competitive settings. Registered for qualifier. We did it. In the margin, a small pencil drawing of the G-poo with an arrow pointing to the PCI slot. Below the arrow, click Duck Success. My son documents every Saturday the way I document marine repairs. With dates. With notes. With the care of a person who understands that the record matters, because the record is proof that you showed up and you built and you clicked and it counted. What happened at midnight is the reason 158 calls came before sunrise and the reason my mother stood at my gate at 7:30 and holding a photo album she thought would open a door that was welded shut. At 11:45 p.m. I opened the cruise booking. Royal Caribbean, 7-night Western Caribbean. Departing Galveston. Cabin for 6, me, Alden, Patrice, Sefton, Maddox, Dane, total, $9,300. My visa. My name. My booking through a marine industry contact who got us a balcony upgrade. Patrice had told Aunt Luella and 3 other relatives that Maddox booked and paid for the cruise. He wanted to treat the family, she said at a church luncheon in October. My son is so generous. Her son is so funded. By me. I called Royal Caribbean's 24-hour line. I placed a cardholder hold on all remaining charges. The $2,800 non-refundable deposit was already processed and gone. The remaining $6,500 in cabin charges, excursion packages, and dining upgrades was frozen. The agent asked, "Are you sure you want to hold all remaining charges?" I said yes. She said, "The booking will show as suspended for all passengers." All passengers. All 6 names, including Maddox, who thinks he paid for this. At 11:52 p.m. I called Visa customer service and removed Patrice as an authorized user, effective immediately. Every recurring charge on her version of my card would fail within 72 hours. The nail salon, the home goods auto refill, the Costco membership renewal, the $49 monthly subscription to a wine club she joined in August and never told me about. I went to sleep. The Jeepoo was on the nightstand next to my phone. Scorched aluminum in the dark. I closed my eyes. The call started at 4:12 a.m. Patrice first, then Maddox, then Patrice again, then Sefton. The pattern repeated with the regularity of a bilge pump cycling, 3 to 4 minutes apart, automatic, persistent, alarming. By 8 a.m. I had 158 missed calls. I counted them later. 158. The voicemails escalated the way engines escalate when the cooling system fails. Slow heat first. Then the red line. Number 4. 4:28 a.m. Patrice. The cruise booking shows suspended. My card was declined at the gas station. Keegan, call me. Number 12. 4:55 a.m. Maddox. Did you freeze the cruise? That trip is in 6 weeks. Dane has been counting down. You cannot cancel a family trip because a computer broke. Number 26. 5:22 a.m. Patrice. I tried ordering coffee pods online. The card declined. What did you do to the card? Number 47. 6:02 a.m. Patrice, voice cracking. Your father is beside himself. He was looking forward to this trip. He has been talking about the balcony cabin for weeks. You are punishing the entire family over a machine. Over a computer, Keegan, a computer. Number 63. 6:28 a.m. Sefton, low and flat. Computers can be replaced. Family cannot. Unfreeze the cruise. Number 81. 6:45 a.m. Maddox, I will pay for the computer. I will write you a check. Just unfreeze the cruise and put the card back. He will pay for the computer. $7,200 from a man who owes me $12,800 in boat service and $8,160 in marina slip fees and has never once written a check to me for anything. He will pay. The way he always pays, with a promise that costs nothing and resolves nothing, and exists only in the breath between the word and the silence that follows it. Number 109. 7:06 a.m. Patrice Cold. If you do not fix this by 8, I am coming to your house. Number 122. 7:14 a.m. Patrice Colder. I am in the car. Number 158. 7:28 a.m. was not a voicemail. It was the intercom. At 7:30 a.m., Patrice's sedan pulled up to my gate. My gate is coated. Marine-grade steel frame. I welded it myself from 2-inch square tubing and mounted a camera on the post and wired the intercom through a waterproof junction box because I build things to marine specification, which means they resist salt and rain and weather and mothers who show up before 8 and with photo albums and the belief that sentimentality opens gates. She pressed the intercom button. I was in the kitchen. Alden was still asleep. The Jeepoo was on the counter next to a bowl of cereal he would eat when he woke up. Open the gate, Keegan talk. This is not a conversation for an intercom. Open the gate and let me in. Your father is in the car. We drove 25 minutes. Open the gate. I looked at the monitor. Patrice was at the intercom holding a brown leather photo album with brass corners. Behind her, Sefton was in the passenger seat of the sedan. His arms were crossed. He was not looking at the gate. He was looking at the dashboard, which is his version of looking at anything that does not require him to speak or act or be a father. Patrice held the album up to the camera. Your father and I raised you boys together. This is bigger than a computer. Look at these photos. You and Maddox building the treehouse. You and Maddox at the lake. This family has history. Keegan, open the gate. I remembered the treehouse. Sefton nailed 2 boards to a post oak in the backyard and called it a platform. He went inside after 20 minutes to watch football. Maddox and I finished the rest ourselves. I was 11. Maddox was 7. I did the cutting. Maddox held the boards. We built it together. And now Patrice was holding a photo of that treehouse to guilt me into opening a gate because her other son's child shoved my son's work into a fire. I almost opened the gate. The photo album. The treehouse. The memory of building something with Maddox before Maddox became the man who does not build. The thing that stopped me was the camera. On the monitor, I could see Patrice at the intercom and behind the sedan, parked at the curb, Maddox's truck. He was in it, hands on the wheel, head down. He had come with her but would not get out. He sent his mother to the gate the way he sent his son to the fireplace. Maddox does not do his own work. He assigns it. That computer was 11 weekends, Mom. Alden and I built it together in my garage the way you say you and Dad raised us together, except we actually finished. The cruise is $9,300 of my money. The card had $16,800 in your charges over 3 years. Nails, home goods, a $380 spa day, a wine club you never told me about. The marina slip is $8,160. The boat service is $12,800. You want to talk about family through an intercom? Family does not shove a 14-year-old's work into a fire and tell him he is broke. Patrice's voice shifted. Defensive, the card was for emergencies. Those charges were normal household expenses. A $380 spa day is not a household emergency, Mom. A $49 wine subscription is not a household emergency. You spent $16,800 on a card you told me was for groceries and gas. That is the same lie every person in this family tells. The money is for one thing, and it goes to another thing, and nobody tells Keegan because Keegan keeps paying. I looked at the camera one more time. Maddox was still in the truck behind the sedan. He had not moved. He had not opened the door. The man who stood behind a couch while his son shoved $7,200 into a fire was now sitting behind his mother while she held a photo album to a camera. The pattern is the same. Maddox stays behind things. Couches, mothers, truck windshields. He never stands at the front. We built that PC over 11 weekends. Your son shoved it into a fire because his father never built anything with him. Through the camera, I watched Patrice lower the album. Her arm dropped. The brown leather swung at her side, brass corners pointing at the concrete. Her chin dipped. Her lips went tight. The breath that left her was a small white cloud that dissolved before it reached the lens. Behind her, in the sedan, Sefton uncrossed his arms and put his hands on his knees and looked straight ahead at nothing. And behind the sedan, in the truck, Maddox's head stayed down. His hands stayed on the wheel. The posture of a man who heard through an open window the truth his mother heard through an intercom. His son destroyed something because his father never built anything. And the gate that would not open was not made of steel. It was made of every Saturday Maddox did not show up. I turned off the intercom. The $300 monthly Zelle stopped the same morning. 3 years. $10,800. Patrice called me about it 2 days later. I answered. The Zelle did not come through this month, Keegan. I canceled it. Your father depends on that money. Dad's pension is $3,400 a month. The mortgage is $1,100. Utilities are $380. That leaves $1,920. He does not depend on my $300. He uses my $300 for premium cable channels and a lawn service and fishing trips on a boat I serviced for free at a marina I paid the slip for. The $300 was not keeping the lights on, Mom. It was keeping the lifestyle on. And the lifestyle included standing in a living room while a 15-year-old shoved my son's computer into a fire and your husband called the builder broke, and you stood in a doorway and said nothing. You are tearing this family apart. The family tore itself apart when Dane's hands hit the case. I am just reading the damage report. She hung up. The cable was downgraded to basic within 2 weeks. The lawn service canceled in January. Sefton mows the yard himself now on knees that were too bad for installing the cabinets I put in Patrice's kitchen for free, but that apparently work fine for a Craftsman push mower when the alternative is paying $150 a month from his own pension. Aunt Luella learned the truth about the cruise in December. I forwarded the booking confirmation by email. My name, my visa, my cabin assignment through a marine industry contact who arranged the balcony upgrade. Luella called Patrice the same afternoon. You told me at the church luncheon in October that Maddox booked this cruise. You said he was treating the family. You said it in front of 12 women from the congregation. The booking confirmation says Keegan Reese. The payment is on Keegan's visa. Maddox did not pay $1. Patrice said there was a misunderstanding about the arrangement. There was no misunderstanding. There was a 6-week performance in which Patrice told 12 church women and 4 relatives that her younger son was generous enough to book a Caribbean cruise for the entire family. The performance ended with a forwarded email and a booking confirmation that had one name on it. Mine. Luella told 3 other relatives. By Christmas, the narrative had collapsed. The version where Maddox treats the family was replaced by the version where Keegan funds everything and Maddox stands behind couches while his son follows breakfast instructions and the grandfather calls the builder broke and the grandmother collects $16,800 on an emergency card that never saw an emergency. Here is the part that stays after the cruise is frozen and the card is dead and the slip fee is canceled and the aunt knows and the cable is downgraded and the lawn service is gone. Maddox brought his Wellcraft Center console to Kima Marina on November 22nd for scheduled winterization. He tied up at slip 17 the way he has tied up every fall for 4 years, coiling the dock lines loosely because he never learned to cleat hitch properly, and I never corrected him. Because correcting him would have required explaining a knot, and Maddox does not listen to explanations from men who fix boats. He walked to the service desk where Ochoa, the marina manager, was reviewing the winter schedule on a clipboard. Reese Marine is no longer servicing this vessel, Ochoa said. He was reading from the termination notice Caruso and I drafted together on the Sunday after the fire. Professional letterhead. No emotion. Effective date and reason, service agreement terminated at the discretion of Reese Marine Repair. Ochoa handed Maddox a copy and a referral list of 3 other certified marine mechanics in the Clear Lake area. Terminated? Keegan has been servicing this boat for 4 years. For free. Ochoa did not react to the word free. He has managed the marina for 12 years and he knows what free service looks like when it stops. You will need to contract another certified mechanic. The referral list has 3 options. Rates range from $110 to $140 per hour. A boat owner 3 slips down, a man named Westergaard, who has used Reese Marine for 6 years, was waxing his hull. He watched the exchange. He did not say a word. He did not need to. The service tag, the laminated Reese Marine repair tag that had hung from Maddox's center console for 4 years, had been removed. I removed it myself on the 18th. I drove to the marina at 6 a.m., walked to slip 17, opened the console, peeled the tag off the fiberglass, and put it in my pocket. The adhesive left a faint rectangle of clean gel coat surrounded by 4 years of salt and sun. The rectangle is the shape of a service agreement. The blank space is what remains when the mechanic stops showing up. Maddox stood at the service desk for 30 seconds. Then something shifted. His jaw loosened. His shoulders dropped 2 inches below where they normally sit. His right hand came up to the back of his neck and pressed there. The reflex of a man whose body is trying to hold his head in a position his spine no longer supports. His left eye blinked 3 times fast. He looked at the referral list. He looked at the blank rectangle on his console. He looked at slip 17, where his boat sat with flat zincs and a lower unit that needed service by March, or the gears would grind and the seals would fail, and the boat that floated on free labor would start taking on water from deferred maintenance. The winterization that used to cost nothing, $800. The impeller, $350. The lower unit, $600. The slip fee, $340 a month. Now his alone. The annual cost of owning a boat without a brother, $7,280. More than the PC he let his son destroy. He took the referral list. He walked back to slip 17. Westergaard watched him walk. Ochoa watched him walk. The marina was quiet except for the slap of water against hulls and the distant sound of a diesel engine idling 3 docks over. An engine that belonged to a Reese Marine client. An engine that ran smoothly because the mechanic who services it does not burn things that belong to other people's children. Maddox stands at slip 17 in December. The tag is gone. The rectangle is fading as the gel coat oxidizes evenly now that the adhesive has been removed. In 3 months, the outline will disappear entirely, and there will be no visible evidence that Reese Marine Repair ever serviced this boat. But the service logs exist. The records are in my files. Every impeller change, every zinc replacement, every lower unit service, every winterization. Documented the way I document everything, with dates and notes and the precision of a man who understands that the record is the proof. The blank space on the console is the shape of a brother who showed up for 4 years and serviced an engine for free and paid a slip fee for 2 years and watched from across a Thanksgiving table while his nephew's work melted in a fireplace and said one word, understood. A Saturday morning in January. My garage workshop. 2 months after the fire, the marine bench is cleared. The parts are racked. The workspace smells like solder and the faint ozone tang of a new power supply under first load. A new build sits on the workbench, half assembled. New Asus motherboard mounted with the same 4 standoffs and the same magnetic screwdriver from Saturday number 2 of the old build. New 32GB Corsair Vengeance DDR5 seated. New Evgia 850W SU wired. The Corsair case is open. The custom cables are routed. The Noctua cooler is mounted. Everything is ready for the last component. The scorched GPU sits on the desk next to the new 27-inch monitor. Alden put it there on the first day of the rebuild. Not as decoration, not as grief, as a benchmark, the thing that survived the fire. The aluminum heatsink that absorbed 300 degrees and held its shape when the glass shattered and the motherboard cracked and the fans melted and the rig B went dark. It sits next to the new build the way a scar sits next to healed skin. Visible, permanent, and proof that the body rebuilt itself. Caruso stops by at 9 a.m. with 2 coffees and a bag of breakfast tacos from a taqueria in Seabrook that has been open since 1991 and makes barbacoa that Caruso says is better than any marine diesel I have ever smelled. And I have smelled some good diesel. He sets the coffees on the workbench away from the components because Caruso knows that liquids near motherboards are the marine equivalent of salt water near wiring. One spill and the system shorts. You boys building again? He says. We never stopped, I say. Alden opens the box. The new GPU. RDX 4070 Ti. Upgrade from the original 4070. Faster clock speed. More RAM. Better thermals. He holds it in both hands the way he held the original on Saturday number 3. His fingers are steady. His anti-static strap is on his left wrist. He positions the card over the PCI slot. He lines up the gold connector with the socket. He presses down. Firm, even, the way I taught him. Click, the card seats. The retention clip locks. The connection is solid. The GPU is in the slot the way it belongs in the slot, secure, aligned, and held by the mechanism that was designed to hold it. If it does not click, it does not count, Alden says. It clicks. It counts. It always has. And it always will. Because the boy who builds does not stop building when someone burns what he made. He builds again. Better, stronger, with the scorched evidence of the last build sitting beside him as proof that fire does not end a builder. It reveals one.